Well, in general, generosity has continued to go up, and that's making a huge difference. We're getting more vaccines out to children, less children are dying, we're helping more farmers with new seeds than ever before. But there's still about 1 billion people who live in very tough conditions, conditions that if we lived next to them, we'd be horrified and immediately try to help. The big challenge is that with the financial difficulties, that the poorest will be forgotten. Knowing that the money is well spent, that it has this big impact, and being able to relate to the humans that it helps, being able to make sure the money is going to poor countries, not to middle-income countries where it can't have that dramatic effect. Well, I'm simply going as somebody who's spending billions of my own money in these areas and sharing the success stories. Spain has funded vaccination. They've funded Global Fund. Those are things that go to the poorest countries. And so the impact per euro is over 20 times what you could do spending that money domestically. And so my basic view is that up to 1% of the budget should be available to help those in greatest need. He has many priorities. It's a tough time, but is he willing to do the 1%, and is he willing to focus that on those in greatest need so that the impact is very, very high? And well, when you get countries like Peru that are $10,000 per person of GDP, there aren't kids dying of malaria or people not getting AIDS drugs. It's quite different when you're a middle-income country. And so if the aid starts to go to a country at that level of wealth, then you really do have to question why are you doing aid? Aid should be where you're helping the poorest. And that once you're up to middle income, take a country like Peru that has all sorts of mineral resources that it could choose to exploit. It could be as rich as a European country. So, Morocco has minerals and lots of money. When you compare it to, say, giving to Chad or Mozambique or Sudan, it's Ethiopia, it's very different in terms of what you're trying to achieve. And historically, aid was confused by efforts to buy friendship. The United States would give aid to countries that would misuse it, but if they were our friend, that was okay. Fortunately, with the end of the Cold War, that type of aid is gone, and now we can say every euro that gets spent, what's the humanitarian impact? Well, that area of scientific research is greatly underfunded. Spain did give some money in those areas that I'm hoping is preserved because it takes money to do this research. A lot of malaria and TB research are done here in Spain at Tres Cantos. There's a TB vaccine effort here in Spain, which is fantastic. There's a leading malaria group based out of Barcelona that's run by Pedro Alonso. We hope to have a malaria vaccine in the next few years. An AIDS vaccine is more like 6 to 10 years before we have that. But our foundation's a big funder of that. I vote for technocrats whenever I can. When issues are very complex, often, and I know the U.S. situation the best, a lot of things that have been sheltered, like regulatory practices that make the economy less efficient, for doctors or pharmacists or various service activities. The in a pure political context, you never get rid of those inefficiencies because those people care so much about their special treatment. A technocrat can come in and say, look, here's a series of these things that broadly help the economy, and make tough decisions. Well, you have a worse unemployment than any other country, and there's clearly a reason for it that is somewhere in the structure of that labor market or the education market. Now, I'm not an expert on Spain. I will say in general in these situations, the best long-term solution involves some short-term pain. You do have a perhaps once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make some hard decisions and get some of the fluidity that would be more typical of a Irish or UK or American labor market. Well, but it's very strange. I mean, why is the wage rate not come down? If you said, okay, we have a factory and we're making coal and nobody's buying our coal, you'd say, well, your price of your coal is too high. You have to lower the price. And so if you have all this labor available, there's something very strange about why the price doesn't, equilibrate and allow jobs, for work for other countries to move here and get done here, because that labor's clearly willing to work, and actually in terms of renewing its skills, it's better if it works. So there's clearly some big rigidities when you see that type of unemployment. Well, certainly some type of financial transaction tax could be valuable both in reducing deficits and if some part of it was dedicated to maintaining the support for the poorest even during this crisis. The question is, where should that money go? It's government revenue. It could go to pay off the deficit, it could go to stimulate the local economy, or it could go to maintain the 1% that doesn't let people die just because you stop buying bed nets for them.